everyone, it's Caron here, and for today's episode of Spiritual Superpowers, we are visiting the Petroglyphs Provincial Park in Peterborough, Ontario. And as you can see, Don's not here today. I've brought along my husband, Barry.
Hello.
And so why is the Petroglyphs Park something we should talk about when we're talking about spiritual superpowers? First of all, the petroglyphs are ancient images that have been created over 1,000 years ago by the local indigenous people. And the site is considered sacred. In addition to that, the local indigenous people believe that the site is a portal to the spirit world. Secondly, there's supposed to be a vortex in the park. One of few vortexes in Ontario, actually. And a vortex is where two ley lines or two energy lines intersect. And most people have heard of the vortexes in Sedona, Arizona, because where there are vortexes there, the trees twist and they become a physical representation of the energy of the vortex. So we are going to view the petroglyphs and see if we can feel the sacredness that the indigenous people talk about. And we're also going to see if we can feel the energy of the vortex. So it should be interesting, so stay tuned. Once you park your car, it's a short walk to the visitor's center. Remember to bring your mask and some money. And the visitor center has some really amazing displays explaining the petroglyphs and the Algonquian people that created them. Now, we aren't allowed to film the petroglyphs themselves. So inside the museum, they have an example of a portion of the petroglyphs. And this one depicts a boat and a person and some fish and some turtle eggs. And all of those symbols have significance to the Algonquian people. Once you finish viewing the displays inside the visitor center, you can go outside towards the site of the actual petroglyphs. But again, we can't film any of the petroglyphs because this space is considered sacred. So I've included some stock photos here so you can see what the petroglyphs look like. The petroglyphs are surrounded by a glass enclosure, and that's to protect them from the heat and the humidity, acid rain, frost, and vandalism. As you can see, there's quite a collection of petroglyphs. Quite numerous, actually. They say that there's over 1,000 distinct images. Now, there are other things to do in the park besides view the petroglyphs. You can go for a hike. There's some really nice hiking trails. We didn't have time to go for a hike, but next time we definitely will. The other thing that you can do is visit a lake called Mcginnis Lake. And Mcginnis Lake is what's known as a meromictic lake. And that means that the layers of water don't mix, creating a void of oxygen deep in the lake. And it makes it dangerous for swimming. But what it does create is these beautiful bands of color around the edges of the lake. So this is where I chose to do my meditation. Hello everyone, I'm home from the park and I thought I'd take some time now to do a little bit of a debrief. I'm going to read a little bit from some various websites instead of trying to remember all the details myself. So let's begin with the park and the petroglyphs themselves. The Petroglyphs Provincial Park is a historical provincial park situated just outside of Peterborough, Ontario. It has the largest collection of ancient First Nations petroglyphs in Canada. The carvings were created in the pre-Columbian era and represent aspects of the First Nations spirituality, including images of shamans, animals, reptiles, and possibly the Great Spirit itself. The location of the site was kept hidden from non-First Nation people until 1954 when it was discovered accidentally by a prospector. The stone is generally believed to have been carved by the Algonquian-speaking people over 1,000 years ago, if not somewhat earlier. Today, the First Nations people of Ontario call the carvings, and I'm going to try to pronounce this, Kinomajwapkong, which means the rocks that teach or the teaching rocks. According to the Learning Center, while the glyphs are important, they are not the primary reason that this site is sacred. The rock itself is a sacred place. And today it is a place of pilgrimage for local Ojibwe people. The deep crevices in the rock are believed to lead to the spirit world, as there is an underground trickle of water that runs beneath the rock and produces sounds interpreted by the Aboriginal people as those of the spirits speaking to them. Okay, let's talk about some of the specific petroglyphs. When you see the petroglyphs, there are a lot of repeated images. One of them is a snake. And according to the Algonquians, the snake is a positive force associated with the medicine and wisdom that a shaman would have come for. And it's because snakes live and move between spirit worlds, and they are often viewed as messengers from the underworld and protectors of the springs. Another interesting image that you see quite a lot is the image of a man or lower part of a human, and then connected with a vertical line to a sun symbol. And it is believed that this is a depiction of Gitche Manitou. And Gitche Manitou is the Great Spirit or the Creator, according to the Algonquian people. Another image that you see quite a bit is one of a shaman or a medicine man, and in this image, it looks like a person holding a pot with a very high hat, a very tall hat. So all in all these images seem very connected to spirit, very connected to shamans, and very connected to nature. So let's talk about my own experience now and how I felt with regards to the energy and the vortex in the park. So when I was viewing the petroglyphs, there were other people around, so I really didn't feel like I wanted to do a meditation there. But as we were viewing the petroglyphs, you could just feel a high level of energy, and you just felt privileged to be there. You felt the sacredness of the space. So once we viewed the petroglyphs and took some time there, we went to Mcginnis Lake, as we showed you earlier, and that's where I chose to do my meditation because I was there by myself, and I felt that it was quite different than when I normally meditate at home. I was able to drop into the meditation really quickly and easily. So I actually feel like that was because of the vortex. I was also able to connect to my higher self and my intuitive self really easily. I asked a lot of questions and the answers just came very, very quickly. So I feel that that was because of the vortex. So all in all, it was a really interesting experience. It was great to view the petroglyphs, to feel the high energy of the park, to feel the sacredness of the space, and to really get into that deep meditation and ask some questions that I wanted to ask. So I highly recommend going to the park and experiencing it for yourself. The energy isn't a type of energy that'll like hit you like a brick wall or anything like that, because energy is somewhat subtle. But if you're sensitive to energy, you will definitely notice the difference while you're there. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I look forward to seeing you soon.